Good morning. Welcome to Theodore Parker Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Ruth Kahn, and I've been here since 2016, and it's my joy to serve on the Music and Worship Committee as well as the board and sing in the choir. As we enter into worship, we bring with us all the sorrows and joys of our week, and we know that here we are held in loving community. Here we are reminded that we are part of something larger than ourselves. Here we seek to counter oppression, to work for healing and justice in a bruised and broken world. Here we invite all of you to bring your perspectives, your beliefs and doubts, and all that is unique and wondrous about you into our service. In the spirit of love, all are welcome here. For those joining us in person, a few things you may want to know. Our congregation is mask optional. And if you want, if you would like to be seated in an area where others are also wearing a mask, that section is over on against these windows on my left and your right. You can use QR codes at either entrance to pull up the order of service on your phone, or you can take one of the large print copies available at either entrance. People of all ages are welcome to move about in the sanctuary as they need to. or to make themselves comfortable in the cozy zone in front of the first pew, where we have some cushions and a nice rainbow rug. Today, children are invited to be, are we, tell me what the children are doing today.
Sorry, if we forget to update our script for this. There is children's chapel today. So there is children's programming for elementary school age kids that will happen actually a little bit after our time-full ages. I'll explain that. But yes, children's chapel is happening today. And our childcare provider, Shannon, is over in the nursery with her new nursery helper, Julia. So they're over in the parish hall right now, anyone who needs that.
Thank you, Rose. Rose, our Director of Religious Education. During the service, our child care provider, Shannon and Julia, will be available. Many thanks to Meredith, who is our camera point person, and to Jennifer Bottomley, who is our Zoom usher. If you're new to Theodore Parker Church or are visiting today, we'd love to stay in touch. You're invited to fill out a connection card, which will give you an opportunity to sign up for our weekly updates and help us to welcome you. A link to the connection card will be in the chat, as well as our contact information. Those joining us here in the sanctuary are encouraged to fill out the contact card you'll find in your pews within the bright yellow pamphlet. We'd like to offer a moment for those joining us remotely to greet those of us who are joining us in person. AV, Meredith, please put our sanctuary screen in gallery view so we can see our offsite congregation. Let's give each other a wave and say hello to offsite and to those in the sanctuary. And as we continue to greet one another, we also welcome one another into this physical worship space. We invite you to spend just a few moments greeting one another and saying good morning. If you are joining us online, feel free to post a hello in the chat. And if you are joining us in person, please ask for consent before offering a hug or handshake. When you hear the bell, please be seated for the prelude. We now invite you to greet one another. I may have been exposed.
This morning, as our Jewish siblings and many Unitarian Universalists celebrate, Jewish Unitarian Universalists celebrate Yom Kippur, which begins this evening, we hear these opening words from Reverend Lois Van Leer, titled, Let Go. Let go of all that binds you, of all that burdens you, of all that you carry, of all that shames you, of fear, of trespasses and transgressions, of woundedness. Let go of guilt, let go of anger, let go of small-mindedness and pettiness, of ways of being that no longer work for you, of compulsions that consume your living. Let go of what you cannot change. Let go of regret, of that which haunts you. Let go of pain. Let go of ways in which you missed the mark. Let go. So this morning, our opening hymn this morning is Where You Go by Shoshana Jedwab. And this is a song that takes text from the book of Ruth, telling the story of Ruth and Naomi. And you may have heard this song before. I will sing one line and you can sing it back, and then we'll put it all together. So I invite you to rise in body or spirit and follow along. So I'll do the first line. It goes like this. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Try that. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. You're divine, my divine. All right, let's put it all together and we'll try it a couple times through. Where? Okay. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are my Your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. Little faster. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. One more time. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are my your people are my people. You're divine, my divine. Thank you. Please be seated. And we have Kathy Ware coming forward to read our covenant, and Abigail and Cecile Briggs are coming forward to light our chalice.
Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia y el servicio es nuestra oración. Esta es nuestra gran promesa, vivir junto en paz, buscar la verdad con amor y ayudarnos los unos a los otros.
Good morning. Sorry, everyone. Just lots of layers of things happening in this hybrid worship space as we try out some new things. Well, good morning. My name is Rose. I serve as this congregation's religious educator, and I'm so glad to be with you all this morning. We're just doing lots of new things all the time here. We actually talk a little bit more about this, but as we begin this new year with a new minister, one of the values that we've decided with the music and worship team, with the staff, that we really want to try to embody this year is the value of experimentation. So that's part of what's happening right now, is that we're experimenting with lots of new things. So what I'm going to be doing this morning is talking a bit about this new station over here. You might have seen when you came in. If you came in this way, if you came in that way, probably was a little hard to see. It also relates to the cards, the pieces of paper that you all hopefully got when you came in. But if you didn't, there'll be a moment pretty soon to get one. Before I explain all this, I have a question for, well, particularly you three up front, but maybe anyone. Okay. My question is, well, first, I'm curious if the word prayer is familiar. To the three of you, or you could just raise your hand. Actually, anyone, just raise your hand. Is the word prayer a familiar one? A bit, okay. A lot of people, not quite everyone. If it is familiar to you, again, anyone can answer this. What does it feel like in your body, in your heart, when we experience a prayer, when we're prayerful. Does anyone have any words to say about what that might feel like? Boring. Interesting. It's an approach. Comfort. To me, stillness, exactly what I was going to say. Thank you. No, you're good. Yeah, I was going to say it actually feels a bit like that moment of silence that we just had when everyone thought about what it is to be prayerful. It's a little bit like a little quietness in my body, maybe a little warmth in my heart. We have a lot of practices here in this community of sharing what's on our hearts with each other, sharing what's going on in our lives, what's important. The kids know that when we start Children's Chapel every week, right, we always go around the circle, we say our names, and then we say something about how we're doing. And that's one of the ways we share what's happening for us. We also share joys and sorrows, a more particular way of saying, this is something that's happening for me right now that's really joyful, and I want to celebrate it with you all. Or this is a really hard thing. Can you hold it with me? I wonder, as we think about sharing joys and sorrows, why do you think we might want to do that in a prayerful way? In a way that's connected to that kind of stillness, warmth, maybe boringness, not sure. Any thoughts on that? Reverend Heather, have any thoughts?
But I don't have a microphone.
Right, you can say them, I'll repeat them.
I think it helps us to hold each other with love and more intention.
Hold each other with love and more intention. Yeah. Okay, with all of that in mind, Nancy, yeah.
Feel embraced in the web of life.
Beautiful, to feel embraced in the web of life. Yeah. Okay, with all that in mind, I'm going to actually explain a bit more what's happening. So as I said, we're trying something new this morning that we're going to try for the next few weeks. It's a practice that Reverend Heather brings with her from her previous congregation. And it's a new way that we're going to try sharing our joys and sorrows and sharing prayer together. So there are two parts of it. First is this prayer station up here, which will always be here. It's a little bowl of sand and some beautiful beeswax tapers. And there's a little candle right there. And you're welcome at any point before, during, or after the service to come up and just light a silent candle for yourself. So that can just be a prayer, intention, and meditation that you want to hold internally, represented by the candle. And then we have our prayer cards. So if this is a good moment, if you don't have one already, but you think you might want one, you raise your hand. I bet an usher can come to you and hand out a card. Usher's up for that, thank you. I'm gonna just keep chatting while that happens. So if you have a card, you might have seen that it has a space first to share your name or not. That's optional. And a few lines to write out a joy or a sorrow that you might want to have shared in community. And what you share doesn't have to fit neatly into those categories, just a suggestion. If you're joining us on Zoom, the equivalent way to do this will be to share a joy or sorrow in the chat. And so the reason that we're asking you to do this, and it's not a requirement, this isn't something it's not an exercise we're doing during worship that everyone has to join in on or share. This is just an opportunity, if you do have something that's particularly on your heart that you want the rest of the community to hear and know about, this is the opportunity to share it, to write it on this card. And then we'll be collecting the cards. I'm going to ask the kids to help me collect the cards in a little bit, just this morning. And then Reverend Heather is going to take the cards, take what all of you have written about what's most on your hearts, and she's going to be sharing them from the pulpit during our time of prayer. So already every week we have this time of prayer and meditation that we share together. And what we're going to try to do is incorporate what's most on our hearts in this community into that time of prayer. So I think now, Michael's going to start playing some music, and I invite you just to take a moment of quiet to think, is there something I want to share with my community this morning? To write down. Hold on to that card, whether or not you've written something down. Again, you don't have to. And when we sing our centering hymn together, I'm going to ask the kids to help me collect all the cards. Thank you all.
So we are going to sing our centering hymn now, and as the kids come around to collect any prayer cards that you have written, any joys or sorrows that you've written down, I invite you to give that to them as we sing our centering hymn and remain seated to sing, "May I be filled with loving kindness."
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. May we be filled with loving kindness. May May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole.
And if you're joining us today on Zoom and would like to share a joy or a sorrow in the chat, I will read that as well. This morning, some of the joys on the hearts in this room are an anonymous joy for time with family. And this one makes me particularly happy. It's filled with colorful hearts. A joy from Tori. I recently spent 5 days in the hospital after a fainting spell, and none of the tests revealed anything. It's also a sorrow. A joy from Jen Buchwald. Laughter this week with my gardener friends. Master gardener friends. This is one exercise we're going to be doing in handwriting deciphering. Not just you, it's me. A joy from Kathy Ware. I joined the choir. A joy from Claire, hosting Ola, a doctor from Ukraine, here to study at MGH. A joy from Diana Karthis. My mom finished her cancer treatment, surgery, and more cancer treatment, and now has a clean bill of health just in time for her birthday tomorrow. A joy from James Cross. A high school teacher of mine is an avid bike rider. He is riding an 80 kilometers a day for 80 days leading up to his 80th birthday, raising $80,000 for America's Grow a Row. So inspiring. I had the joyous experience of completing ride number 61 with him last week. An anonymous joy. To be alive and being around those who I love and those who love me. And a joy from Joy. Welcome to granddaughter Cora Noel, born this summer. And some of the sorrows on the hearts of those in this room and those joining us online. An anonymous sorrow for the sad monsters living in my head. A sorrow from Sherrod Hamilton. I am so sad my friend has been in and out of the psych ward of a number of hospitals the past 2 years. She suffers with depression and anxiety and never gets substantially better. Treatment-resistant depression. A sorrow from Mary Harmon. Hearing, sharing, feeling a friend's pain after the recent loss of her and sudden loss of her husband. A prayer from Claire, prayers for Ukraine. A prayer from Matt. My uncle Brian is in the hospital with a serious case of pneumonia. An anonymous sorrow. The sick and suffering people, near and far, the victims of greed in the world and at home. From Miriam, concerned about my brother's health as he waits for a kidney donor transplant. An anonymous sorrow for what wealthy countries are doing to Mother Earth and for the harm to the creatures, plants, and poor countries who did little to cause it. A sorrow for children who experience abuse, neglect, famine, physical and emotional. And from a sorrow from Jen Buchwald, Louise's granddaughter, age 2, with cancer. And for all of these joys and all of these sorrows, I am going to light a candle for all of those that we've shared and for all of those that we hold in our hearts. And let us pray together. Holy One, as we hear the joys and the sorrows of our community, we are reminded that this world can be so beautiful and so broken at the same time. And through it all, we are in need of connection to you, to one another, to a larger sense of purpose. Because it is through connection that we are healed. It is through connection that we know love. It is through connection that we find our sense of meaning and belonging. Holy One, in a time when isolation can be so easy, may we each receive the connection and care we need, and may we each give the connection and care we can. And may we gather together in community to offer that connection and that care to one another, blessing each other with what sustains us. Together, we rest into several moments of shared silence, followed by our musical meditation.
Thank you all, and thank you to the kids for staying a bit extra in the service today so we could all experience that together, first time. But now we get to go off to Children's Chapel. So any kids here today who want to join me, you never have to, but if you want to, gather by this door and Michael will lead us in our children's benediction.
For you shall go out in joy.
morning we are going to hear a testimonial about our Ferry Beach retreat, which is coming up in just a few short weeks. So I would like to invite Kathy Ware to come up and tell us a little bit about Ferry Beach and about the experience that retreat goers might have together.
Thanks. So I spent a week with Natalie at Ferry Beach last summer, and I wanted to talk a little bit about it so you can sort of visualize what it's like. I loved it there. First, you're steps away from the most gorgeous, expansive beach. You can walk for miles. It was beautiful. And then steps in the other direction is a beautiful wooded area, and that's where the chapel is. It's basically you're in an open area with the trees surrounding you, and the pulpit is right in front. It's gorgeous. It's a great place to have church. It also felt like a really warm, caring, safe place. So Natalie was 12, and I had no problem letting her just go, be with the other kids. It was very safe. There was a lot of fun things to do. There was playground and a volleyball court, and there's an ice cream place where you can get these little mini ice cream cones like all day if you want them. The food was great, and you don't have to think about it. You just go and sit down and eat it. And the lodging is really simple, but it was very clean. And something that I remembered when I was talking to Carol is this big main building, and that's where you eat. And there's a giant porch. It's just lined with rocking chairs that you can sit on and watch the sun go up or down. I can't remember which direction. So there's lots of activities that are going to happen that weekend, and you can check out the webpage for that or talk to Brandy or Carol. While I was there, I didn't do a lot of the activities. I got up, had breakfast, went to the small church service, the short church service, and then I got my book and I sat on the beach pretty much all day. Other people went biking and hiking, and at night there was often a big campfire right at the beginning, right where the wooded area is, and there was marshmallow roasting and singing, and it was great. If I could go, I would. It doesn't work for our schedules this year, but I think you should sign up, and I think you need to do it as soon as possible. And there's a link in the e-news, and I believe it's on the webpage too. And one last thing is the price is fantastic. So I think it's $180. You get all your meals and all the lodging, and there's happy hour, I was told. So I think it's a great opportunity. So consider going, and you'll make me very envious.
Thank you so much, Kathy. And just a few logistics on that. Brandy and Carol, can you just wave? People can say hello or ask questions at coffee hour to Brandy and Carol, who are coordinating this. Huge thanks to both of you for doing that. And I believe registrations are due tomorrow. And if you need a few more days, talk to Brandy and Carol. So I hope to send many folks your way today.
Generosity is a spiritual practice in our Unitarian Universalist congregation. We give to remind ourselves of how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are a part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and sacred space. We give with gratitude for all that we have been given and with the faith that together we have more than enough. Links to donate will be in the chat, or you can take a meditative moment writing out a check and sending it to the church after the service. Ushers will be coming around the sanctuary to collect an offering from those in the pews who wish to donate something more tangible. As Michael accompanies us with a wonderful piece, an offering to sustain this congregation of memory and hope be gratefully received. Thank you. Community Means Strength by Starhawk Lectern. We are longing to go home to some place we have never been, a place half remembered and half envisioned. We can only catch glimpses of from time to time. Community. Somewhere there are people to whom we can speak with passion without having the words to catch our throats. Somewhere a circle of hands will open to receive us. Eyes will light up as we enter. Voices will celebrate with us whenever we come into our own power. Community means strength that joins our strength to do the work that needs to be done. Arms to hold us when we falter, a circle of healing, a circle of friends, someplace where we can be free.
So in late February, a few years ago, I flew to Mexico City with a friend of mine, and we took a bus for about 2 hours south, where a taxi picked us up and drove us for another 45 minutes. And we ended up in Macheros, which was a small village with a population of about 400 people, where our bed and breakfast was. The next morning, we woke up early to get in cars driven by our tour guides, and we drove for another 2 hours into the mountains of Michoacan, where we met our horses. The horses took us high into the mountains, into the forests of the Oyamel fir trees. And as we walked deeper into the forest, I started to see them. First one, and then another, and then two and three. And Meredith, can you share the slide? Monarch butterflies. Michoacan is the region of Mexico where monarch butterflies overwinter. And deep in the forest, high in the mountains, somehow the conditions are perfect for hibernation. Somehow each year, the monarchs know to go there. There are literally millions of monarchs hanging from the trees. They hang in clusters off of the Oyamel fir trees, and their folded up black and orange wings make the evergreen branches of these conifers look brown. Can you show the next slide? Yeah. And there's so many butterflies and each of them weigh about half a gram. There are so many butterflies that sometimes the branches of these fir trees snap from the weight of all the butterflies. And when that happens, tens of thousands of butterflies take flight at once, filling the air with flapping wings. It is, in a word, magical. You can go back. So I have long loved butterflies, but this particular part of my journey of butterfly fascination started at a farmer's market in 2019 in Dedham. I bought a milkweed plant for my garden, and as I was purchasing it, I noticed a teeny tiny gray insect on one of the leaves, and on closer inspection, I asked the farmer, "Is that by chance a monarch caterpillar?" To which she enthusiastically replied that it was, and I then spent that summer and the subsequent 5 summers raising monarchs on my back porch with my small housemate Micah, who was 2 at the time and is now 6. And we are now in our 5th season of raising them. I brought some to visit church this morning, if anyone would like to say hello afterwards. But I am in awe of these creatures. I am in total awe of these creatures. It's this paradox where the more that I learn about the science, the more in disbelief I am. And the science of it all is a sermon for another time. And while I love the transformation, the chrysalis, the beauty of each newly emerged butterfly, I'm particularly in awe of what these caterpillars will do after they transform and after they are released. See, what we raise here in the fall in Massachusetts, in the Northeast, all over the country, are what's called 4th-generation monarchs, because each year there are 4 generations of these butterflies. 3 generations fly north, and they live for about 4 to 6 weeks each. And then the 4th generation, the super generation, lives for about 8 months, and they travel south for 2,500 miles. It is the most highly evolved migration of any known species of their kind. And there are mysteries that science still has not been able to answer. How do they know to go to these forests every fourth generation? And how do they find these specific clusters of trees so high and so deep in the mountains? I sometimes wonder if I have leaned so hard into my monarch enthusiasm these past few years, because this world feels like it's on fire all of the time. And I feel like I need awe and beauty and wonder wherever I can find it. Do you ever feel that way? Because there is so much right now. Rising inflation, increasing wealth inequality, deep political polarization, fascism, a climate crisis, systemic degradation of human rights in this country, anxiety, fear, depression, isolation. The world can feel like a sad and scary place too often. And I do believe that we need beauty and hope and wonder and awe wherever we can find it. And friends, this is without even mentioning the pandemic that we have all lived through these past 3.5 years, right? And as we face a new wave of the pandemic this fall, I at least find myself wrestling with questions about where we're at in this pandemic. And congregations like ours, like many across the country, congregations continue to face the impacts of the last 3 years as we wonder how to build back, how to move forward from here, what has changed for good, how to invite re-engagement. Sometimes it feels exhausting. And it makes me wonder, sometimes curiously and sometimes in a demoralized way, what is the role of religious community in 2023? What is the case for being in community when we can experience spirituality, all sorts of spirituality on our own? So I want to take you back to Mexico on my last day there. Over our 3 days, we visited 3 different monarch sanctuaries. And the last day, we were scheduled to go to the busiest and most popular one. I was sure that it was going to be the worst experience. My impression was that it was touristy and commercialized, and I was extremely doubtful. But I had come to Mexico to see the butterflies, and off I went. And by the 3rd day, it was a familiar routine. Get on the horse, ride for an hour or 2, chat with the other people on the tour, see the butterflies. But this time at the top of the mountain, there were so many people, like throngs of people, shoulder to shoulder, and I was so disappointed. I was second-guessing my choice to pay the extra money for the tour that day, and I knew it wasn't going to be nearly as special, not nearly as magical as the first 2 days when we had gone to more remote and secluded and smaller sites. When we got to the top, there were these staff people all holding signs, wearing matching shirts, holding signs reminding us to keep quiet. And I tried to get as far away from the crowds of people as I could. I tried to minimize the impact of other people, other people ruining my magical spiritual experience. So I walked a little faster than the group. I turned left when most people went right. I found a little spot right up at the edge of the barrier rope, and I sat down in the dirt and took some pictures, and I mostly just looked. I watched a butterfly with tattered wings, shredded really, land and take off near me, and I marveled at how it could still fly with those tattered wings, how it had made it so many miles with those shredded wings, and I thought, don't we all have somewhat tattered wings after living in this world? And aren't we all still beautiful, still? I sat there for probably about 20 minutes until our tour guide tapped me and told me it was time to go. And I realized that as I had been sitting in silence toward the front of the roped off area, the crowd, the area that I had gone to get away from the crowd had filled in silently behind me. And I turned around to see a crowd of strangers who had been sitting and standing there in silence with me the whole time, watching this mysterious natural phenomenon with utter reverence. And it was in turning around and seeing all those people behind me, sharing this experience with me in silent reverence, it was in that moment that I thought, wow, I have just been to church. Because friends, that moment in Michoacan was a feeling I have mostly only had in religious community. A feeling that this world is far too beautiful and far too broken to witness alone. And all those butterflies and all those people had migrated to these inaccessible forests in the mountains, and something beautiful happened. Not the monarchs, I mean, sure, yes, the monarchs, but the witnessing too. The sense that all together, all those monarchs clinging to the branches, all those people from all over the world standing in silent reverence, all together, it added up to something so much greater than the sum of its parts. How does that happen? How does that work? In my own spiritual life, the times that I have felt most in awe, most connected to something bigger than myself, when it seems like the whole is so much greater than it's the sum of its parts, this is the closest thing I have been able to, the closest I have been able to put words to the holy. And for me, it's not a feeling that I have almost ever had when I've been by myself. It may be different for you, but for me, I've had this feeling singing in community around dinner tables and fires where the group hits the harmony just right. I've had this feeling watching a congregation's outpouring of love for the newly bereaved. I've had this feeling witnessing people come out and be embraced and supported by their congregation. I've had this feeling in potlucks and at worship and in civil disobedience and at board meetings and by candlelight on Christmas Eve. Perhaps you've had that feeling too. Maybe you're still looking for it. That moment when you turn around and realize this is all so much beautiful together than any of the pieces are on their own. And this could not have happened without our coming together. And this, friends, is why I come to church. Maybe it's why you come to church too. To have community to help remind us to find awe and beauty and wonder and meaning and hope in a world that sometimes seems to offer us too little of all of those. To have other people to help us witness and make meaning of the beauty and the heartbreak of the world. We come to community because we know deep down that we need other people. We need other people who will help care for us. We need a sense of belonging. We need a sense of being part of something larger than ourselves. We need a sense that altogether it adds up to something greater than the sum of its parts. We need to remember that even in the brokenness, the world still has awe and beauty and hope in it, and that we can be part of creating it together each and every day. May it be so, and amen. I invite us to rise in body or spirit for our closing hymn, number 126, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing.
Come thou fount of every blessing, tune our hearts to sing thy praise. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of
Please be seated. We end with some invitations and announcements. Our first announcement is that, Gretchen, are we on weather-wise? It's not raining. Okay, our first announcement is that following the service, we are going to go out to those steps immediately before coffee hour and take an all-church photo for the website. It's not raining, so we're gonna do it. Cloudy, it's gonna be great. This is as good as we're gonna get in 2023. So please join us outside for an all-church photo. We'll try to do it real quick. Gretchen, will you be our marshal? Gretchen will be our marshal. Fantastic. And then please join us for coffee hour next door. The only other announcement that I have is our Ferry Beach signups are due tomorrow. Please talk to Brandy or Carol if you have any questions. And otherwise, we will see you at coffee hour and for our all-church photo. We close with these words. As we go out, may we feel connected and strengthened by our time together, knowing that when we come together, we are greater than the sum of our parts, that we need one another to witness the beauty and the heartbreak of this world. May it be so, and amen. Please join us on the front steps for our photo.